Hey, beautiful soul, welcome back to Dear Body, I'm Listening. Today I'm joined by someone whose work is about honest conversation and real life twists, Heather Nelson. Heather is the host of Life Conversations with a Twist, a podcast that spotlights women who are living boldly, leading with heart, and finding purpose to their pivots. She's also a connector at her core, the kind of person who builds community wherever she goes. What I love about Heather is she doesn't sugarcoat the journey. She talks about the messy middle, the seasons of change, the body lessons, and the courage it takes to keep showing up as yourself when life rewrites the plan. In this episode, we're going to dive in to what it means to listen to our stories, our bodies, and to each other, and how connection itself can be a part of the healing process. So grab your tea, take a deep breath, and let's jump into this conversation with Heather. So, welcome everyone. I have Heather Nelson here with me today. I'm really excited. We had a great conversation over on her podcast a few weeks ago, and she's just like incredibly cool. She's very honest, and I just can't wait to learn a few things from her. One, she's great at connecting, and she is like one of those natural people that just like brings everyone together. And for those of us that are always like by ourselves, I'm sure she's going to have some either inspo or some perspective on how to connect even when you're not feeling great. She also happens to work with someone that has a chronic illness, so she has a really cool perspective on what it's like on the other side. I mean, we know our side, and it's hard to explain when you're not in it and having it, but to have someone that can have a different perspective of what it's like, I think is going to be really cool. And then finally, she has some really cool personal things that she does where she's very generous. And if we have time, I definitely want to dive into that and her journey. So without further ado, with all my talking, let's welcome Heather. Hi,
Thank you,
Heather.
Donna. Thank you. So excited to be here. It's fun to be on the other side. I love, as you mentioned, I'm a podcaster as well. And so it's always fun to be on the other side. But again, at the end of the day, it's all about connecting and it's about like conversations and organic conversations and showing up authentically. So I just love any of these conversations, who's ever leading it. So I'm really excited to be here today.
Oh, thank you. So, as we talked about that, let's talk about your podcast a little. Let's what your podcast is, what the inspo was for that, and kind of how you feel leading a podcast since you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Life Conversations with a Twist. It really stemmed from my career has always been in sales. So I've always been in business development. I've always been in sales, more in like the events industry. So hotels, venues, events, things like that. But most of my career has been connecting with people, taking them to lunch, having meetings with them, getting to know them. And I guess I have this personality or warmth about me that as soon as I meet someone, I make them feel safe and they tell me their whole life story. So I've been the sounding board to a lot of amazing women and their stories. And I thought to myself, how do I like bring these people to my podcast, have these conversations, and allow them to tell their journey? Because I think every woman has gone through some type of journey. I meet women all the time and I'm like, come on my podcast. And they're like, I haven't done anything cool. I don't have a twist, but I'm like, but you have a story. And we all have a story. And I really want women to embrace theirs and be okay with talking about it. Because really, at the end of the day, the goal is to inspire and empower other women to do the same. And so I feel like by me having these conversations with these women, there's people that listen in that might be going through the same thing or know someone who's going through the same thing, and being able to know you're going to get through it. Maybe some tips and tricks on how to get through it, or just creating connection. They can reach out to, these guests, and really be a sounding board and support for each other. So that's kind of what the podcast is about. Most of the women who've been on have all kinds of stories, and Donna was on my podcast as well. Some trauma, they've been through a traumatic experience, they have health problems, they've gone through transitions in their career. I really, again, am embracing any journey, and so it's been really fun. I've been doing it for 4 years, every single week for 4 years, and I'm just what I love every day is being able to connect with women like you and women all over the world who are just doing really cool things. And so I will continue to do that. That is definitely my passion.
That's beautiful, and what a great platform. And that you're embracing like everyone, because we do have, and like, all life stories, there's always a twist, right?
Yep.
Whether we think it's kind of vanilla or not, it's like there's always something that happens to us that, you know, like is life. It's not that straight path, right? So I
Yep.
love that you're bringing everyone together and every week for 4 weeks. That is impressive. It
Thanks.
really is, because, like, those in the podcast game and stuff, it's like there's a definitely like people get tired or they do seasons, but that you show up every week because your heart's there and you really want to tell thousands of stories of women, because it does trickle out like a web or a pebble. I can't think of all the
Well, it's so interesting because there's some days when, I'm not going to lie. There's some days where I'm like, I don't really feel like engaging and being on. But as soon as I hit like start and I'm on a conversation with someone, I never regret it. I've never regretted a conversation. And I feel like the guests, when they come on my show, they come on at a certain time in my life or even a certain type of like day a week or whatever it might be. And I always walk away so inspired or just excited. So again, like I also do it for my own personal like feelings and support and inspiration because there's never been an episode where I was like, that was awful. I wish I never did that. You know what I mean? Like I'm always just so excited to do it. So
That's beautiful, because it is like, and that kind of connection is really like what it's all about, right? Because, like, we want to engage with another human to feel good. And it doesn't, some of these stories sound like mine. I don't remember if I talked all about my trauma and stuff, but like it doesn't have to be like some probably stories probably aren't like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful and wonderful. And there's like rainbows and stuff. It might be some really hard topics that they're divulging in the vulnerability, but that still means like there's the beauty in that connection of it that is inspiring. So thank you for giving me a platform and other women just to have a chance to speak, because I think that is listening and hearing and having space to feel good to tell their stories. Like you said, you were really warm, and you're very warm and right off the bat, like, and you're willing to share your story with openness too. That I think that helps, because the more we talk about things that we think are shameful or embarrassing, right? Or like, oh, no one will get me, or we kind of hide it, then the more we kind of put our self-esteem, all sorts of, it gets all twisted, right? And
yeah.
not a good
I
twist.
just think
So
we all need more like real people, real authentic people. And it's so hard with social media, as we know, that it's like hard to tell, is this real? Is this fake? I mean, even just scrolling on social media, I'm like, is this photo even real anymore? You get to a point where you're like, is this real? And so I just find that so beautiful that women can still show up and be authentic and show them true selves and show up with a big old zit on their lip, and it is what it is, right? It's part of life. And I think that we have to embrace that and be okay with it. So yeah.
yeah, I do. I love that, because it is like the real stuff is the more exciting stuff, really. I mean, even if it's kind of, at least it's alive. It's not so, like you said, is it real or not? Like it's not trying to be this fake thing that's not you. And people care more about people when they're really authentic,
And I
and that.
also think like we all sit in like a bubble and we all, we're all kind of in our own lives. And again, another part of this podcast is like meeting women like you who have a story or have something that they're going on that I don't have any idea about. Like I have no education around it. I have no experience on it, but it gives me a different perspective when I hear what other women are going through. I'm like, okay, yeah, so I have a bad day, right? I stubbed my toe and my kid screamed at me. But there's people out there that are really going through some really hard things. And I think by opening up these conversations and these stories, it's like, oh, okay, maybe my life isn't so hard. And just having a little more appreciation for what other people are going through. You get a crabby person at the grocery store. Well, you don't know what's on the other side of that crabbiness. They could have just lost their husband, or they could have, have a terminal illness or just got diagnosed with cancer or whatever it might be. And I think we just need to be a little bit more okay with knowing that people are having bad days and embracing their journey and what's going on.
I love that, because it's, we don't know, right? There's so many things like there's so many things going on in your life, in my life, that we just have no idea what that moment is. And I think being, connecting as real people again and seeing that it's not just, I love that you said we're all in our bubbles because we really are,
Mhm.
like how we interpret life is all through like our perspective. And just to kind of have that little moment of shift does also make us feel better because then we're not like, why is that person such a, you know what I mean? We're not like then spiraling into our own story about life and people and negative Nancy sort of situations. And I want to talk about that bubble a little bit more because, I know for me, I was a very social person. And as I got worse with my illnesses, I didn't even really know it was quite happening all the time, but I had chronic pain and migraine. So I was a friend that was a counselor. Like I always would cancel plans, not because I wanted to, but it was just like inevitably always these days, like things I really wanted to do in the future when I'm feeling good, I'd make plans and then the day would come up and I'd have a migraine, or as I got more sick, like it just physically wasn't possible for that. And I think connection is really, especially when you're in that like perspective of I want to connect, but then I don't want to be the friend that cancels. So then I stop making the plans. Like you're in sales, and not like sales, like you seem, and my feeling and to know you for a few times is that you really care about people. And
Mhm.
that's really what sales is like if you care about people and then because you like them, you want to give them what they want. And if you have what they want, then it's easier for them to buy what you want, right? But it's
Yep.
really more of a natural, like you care about people, so you want them to give, you know, have what they want. So what would you say about like people like me that tend to isolate? We don't even have to talk about the chronic illness. Like, I mean, I know there's millions of people that have different reasons why they don't interact, but do you have over the last few years, I would love to hear your perspective on connection and, or maybe just like why you're so interested in people or any of those things. I know I asked you like
Mhm.
5 questions in one
I have
go.
so many thoughts around that. Um, I think at the end of the day, connection is about it could be a one-on-one conversation. It could be you and I having a conversation. It could be a group interaction, but it also can be listening to a podcast or joining a group on social media where there's some kind of engagement. It doesn't always have to be like a physical, like face-to-face thing that's happening, but it can be a connection virtually. One of the things that I've found very important for myself is I have like a to-do list every day. And it's like, make sure I drink my water and, make sure I wash my face at night. It's the basic things. But one of the things that's super important to me is like making sure I check in with a friend. And it's not a friend who I talk to every day. It's a friend who's been in my life, or something came up or a conversation about that person, like I'm all about reaching out to them. And it could be a quick little text that's like, hey, thinking of you. Or even if you're driving and you think of someone, what is the harm in just when you are not driving, and you're pulled over and just sending them a quick text and just letting people know that you're thinking of them. And I think sometimes that goes a long way, especially like if you are in your own bubble. And or if you have a friend that's in a bubble that you know is in a bubble and is not wanting to be social, and just checking in and just saying like, hey, I'm here if you ever want to grab a cup of coffee. And then sometimes it's like meeting them where they're at. I think I've learned over the years, especially with, my job was to build relationships. And so obviously like I take people to lunch, but then meeting them where they at. Some people didn't want to go to lunch. They wanted to go have a cup of coffee, or they wanted to go for a walk, or they wanted to go get a pedicure. And so sometimes it's like meeting people where they're at and where they feel comfortable, to give them that experience. So I've always been a flexible person when it comes to that. Like I'm open if they want to go, go play pickleball. I'm like, sure, let's go play pickleball. Let's try something new. But again, I think it's so important to kind of meet them where they're at. And it could be, hey, let me stop by and, you know, we'll have a cup of coffee on the porch, or dropping off a little gift to somebody, just saying like, hey, I'm thinking of you. I think those little things go a long way. And I think people are in their bubbles for certain reasons, and hopefully they're not in bubbles for years and years and years, but maybe it's just a season, maybe it's just a week, maybe it's a month where they're just not feeling great. And whether that's physically, mentally, whatever's kind of going on. And just knowing that people are in a season, or even if you're in a season, like this is just a season for me, I will get back out. and tackle the world. So that's kind of like my perspective of me leaning into other people, and making sure like I show up and continue to connect with them.
I love that. I love that you have a to-do list that has like all the basic things. No, I love that
I
idea.
laugh. I truly laugh because it's like floss your teeth, but they're the self-care things that are important to me that I need to make sure I do every day.
No, I love your list. I really do. Like, I would love to hear all the things because those little things are very like important, and you want to make sure like, and the little things add up. And that how do you decide the person that you want to reach out to?
It's kind of like what comes to mind. I mean, every day I randomly
Okay.
think of somebody, or if we're on social media and you're scrolling and somebody, that's the other thing. I hate being on social media. It's like one of those love-hate relationships, but I truly tell people the only reason I'm on Instagram is because I want to know what my clients are up to. In my last career, like where my position was, I followed all of my clients on social media. So I engaged with them. And so when I went to go meet with them and have lunch or whatever, I'm like, oh my gosh, how was your trip to Hawaii? Because I knew what was going on in their lives based on social media. So again, a connection can be online, and I think you can comment and even like DM people or send someone a cute little meme that like reminds you of them. That's all connection. I know I get so excited when someone sends me a cute meme. I'm all, oh, they were thinking of me today. So again, I think it's like there's so many small ways to connect with people and like easy ways.
Yeah, I love that, especially small and easy. And I do like that you do a list because part of like the chronic illness thing is rest and doing like half of what you do. So to really kind of organize really what's important because, some days it is just like taking a shower, brushing your teeth, like that's a success. But also to you have a ritual with that. So then you have that thought of like, okay, who can I reach out today? And it's not planned, but it's in your everyday kind of sphere and energy. So you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And it helps both you as a connector and then the person on the receiving end. So those are some really good tips. And I mean, we're all on social media. I'm the worst at Instagram. Like, I really am. But I can, scroll and send stuff, like I'm on it. I'm not good as being a business person on it,
Me
but
neither. Yes.
using it, hands down, perfect. Like scroll, DM, all those things. So I love those tips because I think it's really important. And I do know that you work with someone that does have some chronic illness, and I would really like to hear your take about like, and I want to hear the real stuff because like, having chronic illness is a pain in the ass.
Mhm.
Probably dealing with someone with a chronic illness can be a pain in the ass. And not that it's a negative thing. It's just like it's just not usual what you're taught to be like a boss or interact with, right? So there's things that come up that are probably like, huh? That might have been confusing. So like, you're not going to offend me, and hopefully, like, there's no like PC way to talk about this. Really, I just really want to hear your real experience about it with no judgment, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
absolutely. I think as like, you and I were kind of chatting before we came on to record, I've never had experience with someone with chronic pain. And, like it's always been a physical, like they're sick or they have cancer or there's something like very physical about what they might be going through. I had a good friend, her and we actually worked together for a few years. We've always really like stayed connected. She was one of those ones that like kind of popped in and out of my life, here and there. And I would say it was probably the last like 4 or 5 years, her and I got reconnected. And that's when she was telling me about all these like chronic illnesses that she has. I can never say this one, fibromyalgia,
Fibromyalgia.
yes. I know that's one of them, and she has all kinds of things. And so she's not able to work at a full capacity like she has in the past. And she has good days and bad days. And um, again, this was like a first experience for me. And I'm like, wow. And she tells me all of these things that happen to her on the daily. She's one day we show up and it's like 90 degrees and she's in like full sweatpants, full sweater, layers of clothes, boots on. I'm like, girl, it's so hot. But she's like, I'm freezing. And like her nervous system, like, doesn't adjust well to the weather. So I was like, oh, like it was my first experience to be like, oh, this is like a real thing. And this poor thing has like no control over it. Like she does her pain, things to get her through each day. And then some days are good and some are bad. So recently, she came to me and was like, I need to work. The non-working is really hard for me because she used to be like a hustler. She was like me. We were in events, we were in sales. She worked so much, and then she, got to this point where she physically couldn't work at all. Her mental health is great. I'm like, this girl is smarter than she is. Like, she's on it. I'm like, anytime that there's a tech problem, I send it to her and she figures it out. I'm like, so it's again, not a mental thing. It's like a physical thing for her. And she's like, I just need to work. And I can't really work because, she's getting paid through the state and I'm not quite sure how all of that works. So she's like, but I need like something to do to keep my mind busy and to make me feel good again and make me feel like I'm part of something. And so I have a business, me and my husband have a business. It's an event labor business. And so she's been helping me with a lot of behind the scenes, like creating invoices. She helps with scheduling our crew and she's helped me with like all the tech and like software side of things. And I truly do not know what I would do without her. And I tell her that every single day. But one of the things that thankfully the job that I've given her is not like it's not if she chooses not to work a day, it's fine. It's not going to like set us back. Or she's super honest with me like, "Hey Heather, today's not a great day." Like we check in every day and she says, "I have doctor's appointments this day. I might not feel up to it later." Or she's like, "I'm in a lot of pain," or "I didn't get any sleep last night." And for me, I just as a friend, but also as a business owner, I just want to be flexible. I want to be able to give her the flexibility and know that there's no pressure either way if she's not feeling great or not, and giving her that grace of knowing it's today's not a great day. Okay, then tomorrow's a new day. And she is so thankful for me being that way with her because it doesn't give her anxiety of not wanting to work. But it also gives her a purpose. And she's like, I don't know what I would have do without you because now I feel like I get excited and I'm so excited about your growth, as a person and then as a business. And she's just so excited to be along for the ride. So I'm truly, truly blessed to have her right now in my life. And she's, again, has been a friend, but now, supports us in our business. But that's been kind of my experience with her and learning along the way and adjusting to her needs. But I don't know what I'd do without her. And I know she'll probably listen to this podcast and cry.
I know it is very touching. I'm like, oh, that because I think some of the keys that she was really open with you about how she is
Mhm.
or what's going on with her. And you were able to, even if you didn't understand it, like, I don't even know if I understand half of my stuff and my behaviors because of it, truly,
Mhm.
let alone enough to explain it to someone. But then also when you heard about it, you were open to hearing and adjust, and it wasn't like, oh, well, how's this really going to work? And that, it's nice to have a position where it's not dependent on day. Like you said, you
Mhm.
do event staffing. So if you have an event and you're scheduled for that event, you need to show up for that event, right? Like
Yeah.
that's so it's a position that is more project management and you're flexible. But I think really the key is that she told you and was honest
Mhm.
and you listened to that and it wasn't, and you adjusted each other's expectations of what the job requires or what you need and what she needs in a way that's workable for both of you. Because I
Mhm.
think when I know I can speak for myself, it took me a long time to tell people that I was sick because, who wants to be the sick girl all the time, right? Or like, and then people look at you and just like, well, you don't look sick, so
Mhm.
are
Yeah.
you lying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you playing over there? Like, really? So it's like, and how do you explain someone that you're sick that you can't see it?
Mhm.
Right. So even though her mental state, and I'm sure having this job, I mean, I'm going to speak for her and she can like DM me or tell me, like, no, girl, that's not how I feel at all. But having a purpose, like, really is when you're used to doing things and then you're unable to, there is this shift of like, ugh, yeah, I can rest all day, but this isn't fun. And having, I
Mhm.
mean, well, my belief is that we're on this plane in a relationship way. We're here to connect with people. Like, you can believe what you want, but we're here to kind of learn how to connect with people and how to improve and go on through our relationships. So being sick and having people that actually hear you is huge. I mean, thank you, because that's a lot of the issues in this invisible illness, because
Mhm.
it is invisible. And then your doctors don't really believe you, and that's kind of a whole separate thing, but, um, you transfer that onto other things of like, or if you feel bad, like, "Oh my god, I can't work today. How can I tell my boss that it's
Mhm.
because I'm in so much pain?" Because 'Cause they're like, "Well, whatever." Because for me, I know there's been days where I'm in, like, a great deal of pain and I could do it anyway, and then other days I have huge amounts of pain and I can't do it, and it's unexplainable for for, like,
Mhm.
me as well. So I really appreciate that you just not only looked at your situation and your friends, but you see how valuable she is, and other than looking at, like, "Oh, well, she's" because it's not that we feel like, and I'm again talking for her, but she could correct me, unreliable. Like, no one wants, I don't want to be the unreliable person, right? Like, if you're hiring me, I don't want to always feel pressure that I'm letting you down as well. So that
Yeah.
you have that thing where it's like, that's not in the ether of this relationship is a very beautiful thing. And so, with like, the strange things that come up with it, like wearing a lot of, like, clothes when it's really hot out. Like, what is your kind of interpretation of chronic illness? I'm just curious. Like, you don't have to know, like, what does that, like, look like to you? Like, when you see that, are you like, "Oh, like, I don't get it," or
I get it now. I don't think I got it before, but seeing somebody go through it, I see it now. And it's one of those things again, like it's not a physical thing that you see. It's something that internally they're going through. And someone like you were saying, somebody could be like, "Oh yeah, um you're probably just making this up not to work," or whatever it might be. I truly believe now being in it, I'm like, oh no, this is totally not it. And she's come to me, or I've come to her and said, hey, if you're, hey, I have this project. If you're, I think I said, if you're feeling up to it, can you tackle it today or whatnot? The way I worded it, like kind of almost offended her because she's like, it's not that I don't want to work. It's that I physically can't work or I'm exhausted or my joints hurt or there's certain things where she's like I was up all night because I couldn't sleep and I'm just like meant and I'm like okay like nothing is life or death. We can postpone it and it's nothing that I don't know how to do that I can't do on my own. And so I think we just have to be flexible with that. And I think as business owners, as we have more employees, that's something that I've learned over the years being an employer or being an employee. This is one of the models that I want to set for our business. And I say that because my husband feels the same way. Everything that I went through as an employee, I don't want to be that. Like all the yucky stuff, that's not how I want to show up as a boss. I want to be accommodating. I want to adjust as needed. If somebody's not feeling great, okay, like no, no, not to you. If you're sick for a week because you have chronic pain, like there's no judgment behind that because I just remember over the years having different jobs and there's judgment. You're like I used to get migraines. So I kind of know like you can't see it, but I'm like literally in so much pain. And I just remember like always calling in sick and just feeling so awful about it because they made me feel like I'm lying or I don't want to come to work or I just hated that yuck feeling about that. So as an employee or an employer, I'm really trying to show up and be a little bit more accommodating and a little bit more flexible with things, and really appreciating people. I think that is something that goes unmissed with employers is like just showing appreciation, telling people you're doing a great job. I see you. I'm thankful for you. I think those things go such a long way. And I think a lot of employers don't do that. And I know I totally went off topic on that, but
No,
it was
you
something
didn't,
that
because
came to
it's right.
mind.
It's right in there, and that you are placing your business model on that because, like, you had migraines, you had things, you understand, and I mean, I think also your podcast, everything. There's always a twist. So that twist today could be not feeling well, and that you're providing a space where people will want to, like in my experience, people want to show up more
Hmm.
if they have this experience, like if you're willing, other than the reverse of like, always, oh, you're lying, I need more out of you, other than squeezing out of it. You create a situation where they actually want to come to work, and then they're bummed because if they can't for sickness or whatever, then it's they appreciate you more, and then they want to do more for you, which is a more of a beautiful way to be in a relationship. I think that's amazing that you're creating this business model that is really about your values and what you want, and that like they're like, I don't want to be that icky boss that made me
I don't
feel
want people
icky.
talking bad about me behind my back because I know I've done it. I don't want to be that
You're
employer.
like, I know what they say.
I tell my husband all the time, he's definitely like when it comes to our employees, he's kind of the one that's a little more like tough love. Or I'm like, oh, let's give them gas money today, or like let's buy them lunch, because again, those appreciations go so far. And even sometimes like our team will just show up at our house, and they want to talk to him forever. I'm like, that's a good thing that they want to be in our presence and that they want to like stay for an hour and talk with you. You need to just embrace that and love that. And because you're building trust. And the more trust you build, the more that they're going to want to do for you. So I think it's all becomes like full circle.
And that's beautiful, and that you're open for that. And that's really a nice kind of I don't know. I just feel like it's like all nice, warm, and fuzzy. You're creating a business up there that is something that is not the antithesis of what you had, but something that embraces all of the positive things and all the things you want to perpetuate, which then also in turn helps people, I think, as we model and treat people. Like, maybe if they want to go in like 5, 10 years, they create their own business, maybe they'll adopt your own model,
Hmm.
right? So that's it's more expansive like that. And it probably really comes out at your events too, because when the employees are happy and, they're doing stuff, and then they feel like their boss cares about them,
Hmm.
and they like, so it's just like, there is that, like, I'm sure you've heard of the anger spiral. Like if you're angry and like you yell at someone, it's quickly like runs through this, and then all these people are affected. This is the same sort of spiral, but in a more positive way,
Hmm.
which is also the same sort of thing. And we need more of that. So
We
thank you.
definitely need more of
We definitely
that.
need
We
more of
need
that.
so much more of that. I'm like, if I go on another walk and somebody does not say hi to me when I say hi to them, I just want to throw a rock at them. I'm like, why can't you just say hi or like smile? I mean, I'm not asking to have a conversation, but just say be friendly. No, nobody can do that anymore.
I know it's really weird that that is where we've come, that interaction and like just, and they're like, hi, how are you? Yeah. I know, I get that all the time too. People either like stone face. I'm like, did they not hear
Or
me?
they
Or
totally see you and they're
yeah, go the other
like,
way.
you just look at
Oh, I
me.
have this. I have this car I have to look at while I've passed by you,
Like, what's
not
happening?
to create connection.
I mean, I mean, and I think that's why my consulting business is called the Connection Hive because I am like the word connection is so powerful to me in so many ways. I mean, it's like your everyday interactions, it's how you show up in life, it's how you connect with people, how you show empathy, how you build trust to build your business. All of that is so important to me. So when I was like trying to figure out what the name of my company is, I was like, it has to have the word connection in it because that is my power word for sure.
Oh, I love that. And how do you like on the days where you don't feel like connecting? Because I mean, you're human and it's like and if you have to show up for your clients or like teach, do whatever, what is it like your little process that you do that gets you in there? I know we talked before that like just showing up and like talking to them you feel better, but is there anything that you kind of center yourself with before you make connections, or since that is like such kind of woven into your fabric of who you are, is there any little, like, I know you have your list. Is there like a get into the connection mode sort of thing? There doesn't have to be, but I just was
There's
curious.
definitely some days, like I said, I don't want to do the things. I don't want to be on. I don't want to be interactive. I don't, but it's always those moments, those events, those meetings, those podcast interviews when I had that little bit of a doubt were the most impactful. I mean, I can't even tell you how many like networking events I've gone to, and I'm like, oh my God, it's been a long day. I've been in meetings all day. I don't want to drive an hour to go to this event. I'm stuck in traffic. I always make the best connections, whether that's like a personal or a professional. So I always just have to remind myself, yes, you don't want to do it. Just get ready, get in the car, take a deep breath, and just go in there and show up the best that you can. And it's never, ever, ever failed me. But there are days where I'm just not feeling it. I will cancel things. Like I'm just like, you know what, today I need a lazy day. And I go, go, go from the minute I wake up until probably around after dinner. And then after dinner, I'm like, I'm on the couch. I just want to scroll on Instagram for like 20 minutes. I just want to chill. And I definitely do that. And I think my kids go, Mom, like, let's go out. Like, let's go do something. This is boring. And I'm like, I just need a minute to unwind. And so I think giving yourself grace when it's really not a moment that you can really show up, that it's okay to take a break. And I've still constantly learned that. I'm like, I know I could be doing something. I could spend the next 3 hours working on my business or researching other podcast guests or whatever it is. I'm like, just chill, Heather. It's okay. It's okay to not do something, you manifesting generator. Just chill. And so I've been trying to do more of that. And one of my focus this year is just being more present with my family because I was constantly in my head of different business ideas. What do I need to do? I was always like thinking of the next things. And so I've been really trying to shut off work and just be present and not be on my phone and really just be there. And so that's been something that I've been trying to focus on this year. It's not going,
Oh, I love
but I
that.
try.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
really do have to kind of stop yourself, right? And say, like, hey, like, I need to do this or be present or breathe. And I like that you bring in the breath and then also the manifesting generator.
I
I
was
love
just on a
human
podcast the
design.
other day. She's like, "You're a manifesting generator, aren't you?" And I was like, "How did you know?" Because my bio is like 20 pages long. Yes, I am.
I love that too. So, can I'd love to dive in a little personal now. I
Mhm,
know you do. So, through this whole interview, I'm sure everyone out there listening and feel how warm you are and how flexible you are and how giving you are. And I just am in awe of the one other thing that you give with your not just your time, but your body and your energy. Can you talk a
yeah.
little bit about your surrogacy, how you got into it, what it means to you, and like
Mhm.
kind of your why?
Yeah, absolutely. So this idea circulated about when my son was 2 and he is 11 now. So this was like 9 years ago. I had this idea. I worked with a coworker and she was a surrogate and I was like so intrigued. I was like, I need to know everything. I just remember her coming in my office and I just had like 5,000 questions for her. And I was like, I want to do this. And so, of course, I like went home and researched it and did all the things. And at the time, I was married to my ex-husband, and I had already had 2 kids. My daughter was 5, and my son was 2. And I went to my ex-husband. I was like, Hey, I want to be a surrogate. And he was like, Absolutely not. Like, nope. He had no desire. He didn't want to learn about it. He was like not interested. And I was like, Okay, fine. So I put it aside. fast forward, I met my new husband, and he was like, he had a daughter, and then I had my two. So we already had three kids, and there was obviously conversations about us having one together. But I said, I really want to be a surrogate. And he was like, you what? Like, what? He didn't even know what it was. He's Latino, he's Catholic. He's like, I don't know what any of this is. So I made him watch the videos. I educated him as much as I could. And he's like, if this is something that you truly want to do, then let's do it. So we began that process, and I carried for a woman. She lives in Florida. She's a single mom now. But she was not able to, she didn't have eggs, like she wasn't producing eggs. She couldn't carry a baby. And then obviously she was single, so she needed, sperm. So she had to do all the things. And so when I met her, I just knew that I knew the love that I found with my two children, and I wanted to be able to give that to her, or any family who really feels truly about having children and they physically can. And so I went through the process with her. That baby is now 5. So she was born in 2020. And I knew deep down inside I wanted to do it one more time. I'm just turned 43. So if I was in my 20s, I probably would have had more, to be honest. I wish I had this idea and this excitement about it when I was younger, but I didn't have kids till I was almost 30. So my husband said, you can do it again, but I want a child with you. So we had my son, he's now 4. And so as soon as after I was done having babies with him, I was like, let's be a surrogate again. He's like, okay. So I have been matched with 2 men out of San Francisco. So I live in Sonoma County, California. They are about an hour south of me. They were mutual friends. The first journey I went through an agency. So I was, of course, your first journey you want to, because you're learning contracts and the medicals, and there's appointments that need to be made, and so they really like help guide you through that process. But the second journey, I knew enough about it because I'd already been through it, and so had they. So we didn't go through an agency. We've just been working direct. We obviously have lawyers, and we have our medical team that helps us out. And so back in May, I did my first transfer. Unfortunately, it didn't take. We went back in August, end of August. That didn't take as well. So we're working on our next date, which will probably be like November, December. And we'll start that process again. So I keep saying third time's a charm. And everybody asks me how I mentally am feeling about it. And honestly, at the end of the day, I truly believe things happen for a reason. And there's a reason those babies didn't take, whether there's a development issue or whatnot. So that's been my mindset through this, is that it's going to be when it's meant to be. And so I'm hoping this third time it happens.
I hope so too. I hope that like the next time we connect, you're like pregnant and
Pregnant
this is
and
all
doing the
good.
things. I think one of the things after doing it the first time, and after giving birth and having the mom sitting right next to me and my husband on the other side of me, and giving birth to this baby and seeing this baby go into the arms of this mom who was like so over the moon and so excited to have this baby in her hand, that's when I knew that what surrogacy is all about is truly that, and how special it is. And so that's why I was like, I wish I could do it many, many more times. But I really have become a big advocate for it. I want to educate people more. This journey, I've been talking on social media about it more. I will definitely be talking through the journey and, kind of going through the ups and downs, just because I really want people to know that it's such a beautiful thing. It's not a scary thing. It's not a weird thing, that it's something that so many families need right now, especially with all the fertility things that are coming up with women these days. And so I just want to encourage more women to do it.
So when you first went through it through an agency, do they give you any sort of test? Do you have to have any mental or emotional
You do
test to
all
go
the
through?
things. You fill out like a 90-page survey of like everything about you, pretty much, like how are your births, who you are, what do you believe, what kind of relationship do you want with the baby. It's very intensive. You go through background check, you go through a psychological test, you go through medical, obviously, to make sure like you're physically okay to have a baby. All the medical records from all your births get turned over to the doctors for them to review. Um, and then you go through contracting, go through legal. So you do go through all of that before you get pregnant.
That's quite an education, I'm sure, on so many different levels of. So when you chose to do this and you went through all the tests, and what do they give you any sort of counseling or guidance on like not giving up the baby, but once you have the baby, you hand it over to the mother. She was there. And, I mean, I don't know anything about it, just, you know, people stories here and there randomly that there was like, oh, I don't really want to give up the baby. Did you have that, or
I did
is that
not have
really a
that.
thing, or is that just like
I think it could be a thing for sure.
folklore?
I think it could be a thing, but I think when you go through this process, it is very like contract heavy. It's
Okay.
very transactional almost. You
Mhm.
do have access to like counseling through the whole process. So with our agency, we have an independent one now that I would always have access to if I felt that I needed it. Some people write in their contracts to continue to do counseling throughout the pregnancy. So there's definitely those services. I didn't need it because I always knew going into this is not my baby. Even up into the transfer where they're like, we're transferring the baby of XYZ into, you know what I mean? Like it feels very like this is not your baby. And of course, like when you're carrying, you feel this child in you, and it's just like I was pregnant with any of my other children. But I knew like when she came out that she's not mine, and of course, do I still love her? Yes. Do I want to meet her someday? Absolutely. Do I still stay in contact and hear all the updates? 100%. But I still don't feel that she was ever mine. Because she
And
wasn't, she wasn't my DNA. She wasn't, I mean, and
she was,
she
it
was
was,
all, yeah, I was literally just the oven cooking.
because how everything kind of transpired, it was like, this is something that you're part of the process, that you're a part of the whole
Mhm.
gestalt of it. So is it reasonable? Do they put in your contract that you want to meet the baby? It does depend on, I'm sure it depends on maybe the parent
Yeah. Oh,
and
all
stuff,
of that
but
has to be determined. That all actually gets determined before they even match you. So when you fill out
oh,
that 90-page thing, they take both and they match you with the right parents that are wanting the same thing. They want the same experience, they want the same journey, they want the same relationship after. All of that gets pretty much locked down before you even kind of even say yes and before you even get to contract. But then, yes, all that comes into contract. I mean, the contract is very, very lengthy. I mean, it's like an hour call just to go through each section. But you're very much protected when it comes to things like that. But what people don't realize, you have to talk about what if the baby, they run tests and the baby has Down syndrome and the parents decide to abort it? I mean, those are conversations you have to go into of setting those expectations of like what will happen. And luckily, my first journey, I didn't have anything that came up. The only thing that came up for us was I lived in an area where we had massive wildfires when I
mhm.
was pregnant. And so she was really worried about my like health because of all the smoke and stuff, even though we were all like on lockdown and couldn't leave our houses pretty much. She asked for me to leave the area. So I did go and leave the area for about a week, but that was a really hard decision because I had a job at the time, I have a husband, I have, two children, and I'm also in evacuation zone. So if I leave and we get evacuated, now my husband's stuck doing everything. So that was a really hard thing, and that was probably the hardest thing that came up. But luckily, any other weird things, we would always, talk through it. And we had like a social worker that kind of helps with navigating some of those harder conversations.
Are you in constant contact with the parents to be while you're pregnant, or not really? I'm sure it may be you like choose it, but in your case, were you more in contact with her?
Yes, her and I would probably talk like once a week, and she always wanted me to send her, pictures of my belly and like videos of the baby kicking, and she videoed at all the appointments. So we were definitely in communication. I don't talk to her as much. I say probably like once a month we'll check in, and she sends me photos and she asks about my family. When I picked this new family, she actually talked to them. Like they wanted to chat with her just to like see what the, how her experience was with me. And of course they're like, she absolutely adores everything about you. I was like, thanks. Thanks. Yeah. And so the current parents now, I'd say we talk maybe once a week. They'll check in because nothing's really happening right now. I don't talk to them as much, but when like the transfer happened, obviously the first transfer, they came with me. So I got to spend time with them, and we went to dinner, we hung out by the pool together. And so I really got to know them on a more personal level. They didn't make it to the second one, but we definitely are close enough that we probably will see each other a little bit more. And we communicate randomly different things. So,
And then with this contract, do they want you to be a part of their child's
yeah.
life?
Yes.
So because you live close, that at a more younger age or something, you'll be a part of this like family?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I barely see them now. And so,
Oh.
but maybe when the baby's here, I would see them more. But I definitely, you know, for me, I'm like, I raised this little baby inside me. I gave birth to this baby. I want to see what they look like and how they grow and what they like. And, so there's still that like mom instinct of like wanting to know those things. But I don't feel like sad that I don't see her, or, I don't feel like that connection at all.
Wow, that's beautiful. And the crossover with both of these things is that you're like, people that experience invisible illness, it's like, huh, well, I don't really understand it. And surrogacy, I think, would have the same sort of like random people that probably aren't in your life have probably a strong opinion or have maybe told you or judgment or whatever. But so how do you personally navigate not just your own beautiful journey, because it's something that means a lot to you, but interactions you said you had. So your husband's changed so that he wasn't down with it for the first thing. So this new husband is more supportive of everything. But like, what has been some of the sort of maybe almost surprising feedback that you're getting from people, solicited or unsolicited, by friends and family?
I think the number one thing that my fear going into surrogacy for the first time was what people were going to think. I truly was worried. And because of where my job was and what my role was, I was obviously interacting with people all the time. And I was so worried about what people were going to think. Were they going to judge me? They always had 5,000 questions, and I was okay with it because again, I'm just educating people, and I want people to understand like this is like an okay thing. It's not anything to be weird. It's not taboo. It's not, it's a real life thing. And so I was actually very surprised through the last journey, how supportive everybody was through my family. I remember telling my grandma, don't tell grandma and grandpa anything. My life has always been ups and downs between my divorces and surrogacy and like so many different things. Every time I tell them something, they're like, "Why am I not surprised?" Um, but they've always been they're actually one of the more supportive ones, and they always ask, and they ask for photos, and they want to know the
Oh,
things. So I was actually very surprised. If people are not comfortable with it, they just don't say anything, and that's fine. I really never push it upon people. If people want to have the conversation about it, I will have it. If they don't, I leave it alone. And that goes with my kids. I have now I have a 19-year-old who at the time of my last one didn't want anything to do with it. She didn't ask me about it, never interacted with me about it, but now she's like super interested about it and thinks it's cool, because she's older now. Now my 14-year-old is not into it because she is 14, but before she was younger and like didn't really care, but didn't really know things, but wants nothing to do with it this time. And so it's interesting how my kids have changed their opinions based on their ages. And obviously when they were smaller, having to go to like pickups or go to school functions, everybody would ask like, "Oh, was this your like baby brother or sister?" And they did such a great job at saying, "No, mommy's caring, for somebody else." And so they get it. I think it's a little bit probably more harder for them, especially now that they're older, how they navigate that a little bit. But again, I don't push it on them. I let them, if they want to talk to me about anything, I'll talk to them about it, but I will never go to them and say, "Oh my gosh, this." I really leave it I leave it to everybody's comfort zone, really, at the end of the day. And it is hard. You know, some days you are going to a store and everyone's like, "Oh, you're having a baby." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm actually, caring for somebody else." And they're like, "What?" Like everyone's like so shocked by it. And then again, they ask a lot of questions, but I'm an open book. I want people to know about it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. Again, I want people to embrace what it is. And so I've just been kind of like an open book about it.
That's beautiful. And also, since you want to share it so much that you are like these opportunities at the grocery store or wherever, if you say that and then, like, oh, like, maybe they might find some curiosity about it. Do you have anything formal or official where you try to mentor or help people or educate about surrogacy?
Not yet, but I do. I think what I might do with my podcast is take like a little season, and maybe that's like a couple months. And my guest will be all around surrogacy, whether that's a doctor, a fertility doctor. I was actually interviewed on my fertility doctor's podcast as a surrogate, so that was really cool. But I want to have people on the store on the podcast who either are surrogates or husband. Like I would love to have my own husband on to talk about his experience. And so I want to do more education around that, and I probably will do that once I keep like planning it, and then I like not pregnant, but I want it to all kind of happen when I'm pregnant, so it's like in this beautiful like journey together. So more to come on that.
Yeah, you're going through like you have a focus right now that you your mission is to get pregnant
Yep.
again, so that's where all your energy is going. And then if you would like, I can link those podcasts about surrogacy
Yeah.
to these show notes so people that are interested, or maybe if you're chronic illness or something, like you want to have a family but you're unable to, this could be a really nice route for anyone out there. So I'm sure Heather would answer all your questions. So
Yep.
I'm going to take it upon myself to DM her on Instagram. And where can they find you on Instagram? Where do you hang out? Do you have your podcast one, or what's the best channel for you?
The best channel is probably the heathernelson.life. That is like my personal Instagram slash business slash brand. So I continue to push content there. I'm definitely more active there. You can see my podcast. I also host women's retreats. You can see my kids, and all the craziness that happens is all there. I also have a website called theconnectionhive.co, and that is my consulting business. And you can find my podcast and stuff on there as well. And my podcast you can find on any platform, which is called Life Conversations with a Twist. And definitely would love for anybody to follow along. I always tell people you want to go back because I've had so many amazing guests on, and like even the beginning stages of my podcast, that there's like you just have to like kind of dig, but there's some great ones. And I think I've had probably about 5 solo episodes just on around surrogacy and different topics around that. So if anyone is interested, there's like specific episodes just on that.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really interesting conversation to have, and see how, you know, I'm sure the process, how long did it take you total the first time to fill out the paperwork until you
It's a
found an
very long
information?
process. I didn't even mention that before I got matched with the girl, the one that I had the baby for, I was actually matched with another two gay guys. They lived in Sweden. And so I actually went through that process with them, which was about a year, even went to the transfer. The transfer didn't take, and they decided to cancel their journey. So that in itself was probably about a year and a half. With my last one, it was probably about a year to two between matching, medical, all the things. Thankfully, our first transfer was the only transfer, so that was like a quick thing. This one has been taking a very much longer. I think when we started the transfer back in May, we had already been through the process for a year. So we're going on like a year and a half. And I probably won't get pregnant, hopefully, until like the beginning of the year, which means I'll be with them a whole nother year. So it is a process, and you just have to like be patient. Some things take a little longer than others, and some happen really quickly, but you just have to be very, very patient.
That's good to know. That's like if you want to be a surrogate or if you're looking to be matched, it's about a year before the
Things
thing
start
really
happening.
happens. So it's like a couple years together. So,
And matching isn't an easy process. There's not enough surrogates. I mean, I hear that all the time. I listen to other podcasts. I've talked to different fertility doctors. There's not enough people who are stepping up to the plate to be surrogates. So these poor families who are just trying to find one have a really hard time. The other thing that people forget that surrogacy is not allowed in every single state in the United States. In fact, it's not even allowed in a lot of countries. So
hmm.
people from other countries are coming to the US to like find their surrogates. So you see a lot of international stuff. And then now with all the stuff with our government, like I'm sure it's even harder now. Um, so there's even that process that people don't understand. So then your like surrogacy pool is so small.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
that you do get matched and you find someone and it is successful and you have like you continue that journey. So, wow.
Yeah.
Well, so if you're anyone's out there listening that is interested in maybe, it sounds like the family need is
Mhm.
pretty there's a lot of families that are in need, but not a lot of surrogates. So if you know of anyone that you think might be interested or just curious, I highly encourage you to contact Heather or listen to any of these podcasts because
Yeah.
it sounds like it's going to be the
Or
next
reach
big.
out to a fertility surrogacy agency. There's so many now, and I'm happy to. If anyone reached out, I can
Oh,
send you the group that I worked with. They were out of LA, and I absolutely loved them, and I loved my experience with them. But sometimes you can just get on a call and just ask the questions, and they're so great
oh,
about
okay.
that
So
stuff
they're
too. Yeah, but I'm an open
pretty.
book too, so anybody can reach out to me.
So anyway, you find it.
But
Well,
I'm one of like I've had very great successful stories. That has not always been the case. There are some really horrible surrogacy stories out there, and I listen to more podcasts and I hear about them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. So it's not always rainbows and sunshines. There's definitely some things that can happen, but I really truly believe that going through an agency is the best way to go, especially for your first one.
yeah, it sounds like it's very complicated
Yes, it's
and
very
there's a lot
complicated.
of variables and there's a lot of things that you really have to uh plan out, like if there is birth defects, if there is things like what are both parties willing to do, and even more so than like you probably didn't plan out that as your own children,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
exactly.
maybe along the way, but not like, okay, here is the whole plan and these are all these contingencies. So it's nice though that then everyone is set up for their expectations and then from the beginning, and obviously if things, change, but then if both parties feel a little safer going into it, like, okay, this is our plan, we don't have to do it mid like emotions, mid, like whatever comes up. Because I'm sure it's a very emotional journey for each of you,
For sure.
depending, because there's also hormones involved. So I'm sure that plays
There's
into
lots of
some
factors that
of
happen.
that family, business, your work, your whole life, your hormones, all of, daily life stuff that pull in.
I
So
forget it's kind of a full-time job. There's definitely certain parts of it that feel like a full-time job. So when I tell people about what I do, they're like, "How do you do it all?" I'm like, "I don't know. You just do."
Well, it sounds like you're very passionate about all the projects that you have, and I think that also probably gives you some energy
Mhm.
behind to sustain the whole thing because it's not just it's definitely it sounds like there's a sustaining energy that needs to happen through all of the things that could or could not happen, especially now in the process of getting the transfer and not and like I'm sure you seem like you're very solid and happy and
I
mentally
think so.
clear with all that, so it's, but I've had friends that are getting IVF, I guess
Mhm.
is technically, and they've had days where they were supposed to get their implant that day and they were in the parking lot and they got called by the doctor and said their eggs were no longer viable. So it's, definitely a roller coaster with things depending on, you have the human body that needs to do its thing, which can't force it to do anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the part that's being patient. You just have to be patient. You get the transfer done, and then you just have to patiently wait till you're pregnant, or patiently wait until you get that blood work, and then you go get the blood work, and then you have to wait like 24 hours till you get the results, and it's like on pins and needles. Yo-yo of emotions. So I think that's the hardest part, right? For me, that's been the unknown, and then finding out something like not great. And so um I'm glad that we're just like in a chill zone right now, and then ramp up again in like a month for that process again.
Well, I I hope it turns out how it's supposed to turn out and getting pregnant and doing all the things for this family that seems like you are really wanting your heart to just have them have a family and they're really wanting this, which is a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
So I love our conversation. I thought it was so fun and we covered a lot of different things, but in the end, it's all about connection. Like really what like sings true is, and a good reminder to me from you, Heather, is that connect with a kind of open-ended sort of presence of like,
Mhm.
let's see where it goes. Let's be flexible because you never know on both
Mhm.
ends. And that actually makes your connection with people and yourself and the world around you an easier flow. You're more in flow other than trying to kind of force things.
Mhm.
And patience. You have beautiful patience of just like, okay, this is what I want, and I need to sustain some energy around patience and always like beautifully just reaching out to someone that you feel drawn to. A little meme, a little hello, a smiley face, something kind of helps bridge your own emotions to help people, and then will help the other person because, connecting from us to them, it's like this two-way street. And it was like a very beautiful conversation, especially how your perception of working with someone that has an invisible illness, a chronic illness, and again, that listening, figuring out something together. And, also through this is like the more vulnerable and the honest you are, like you don't want to hide that you're a surrogate. You don't want to hide your feelings about how things are, about your working relationships. The more you talk about things and just put it all out there, even if it's scary or you feel weird about it or you don't want to be judged, then it opens up more true conversations so you can have relationships that are more well, they're rooted in trust and you're not thinking that the other person needs to do this, or there's no weird expectations, or there's no expectations behind the scene, which actually makes these environments that you're creating really amazingly beautiful. So I really appreciate your time and all of your wisdom.
Thank you.
And do you have any final thoughts, or is there anything that you wish that you would have known sooner along your journey, or if someone would have told you years ago that would have helped you in any aspect? It could be like a pearl of wisdom. It could be anything
I
you want
think
to
for
leave us.
me, one of the things we didn't like go deep into is just really pushing your life to be the life that you want, and not accepting, oh, it's just the way it is, or oh, this is what life has thrown at me. That you really get to write your path and write your journey, and that you need to lean into that. And every choice that you make should be toward like loving the life that you have. And so I didn't do that for a lot of my journey until probably like 10 years ago. And then that is when it was like, oh yeah, I am in control of my life and how it plays out. And so just reminding yourself that you're in control of that.
Oh, I love that. That's like the perfect thing to end on. And I'll leave all of Heather's links below in the show notes. Reach out and also link the podcast that she and where she talks about her experience for fertility or the surrogacy with
Mhm.
her fertility doctor. And I just really appreciate your time and thank you so much for having this conversation with me today.
Yeah.
And everyone out there listening, if you have any comments, let us know, and I'll see you next week. Bye.